I'm going to start with Graham Potter, though, who in the last hour has admitted there are risks attached to the Chelsea job, but that he's confident in his decision to move from Brighton. Let's cross to James Clifford-Weir now, who was in that news conference at Stamford Bridge. I said I'd get you back, Jamie. Good afternoon to you, Jamie. Huge job for Graham Potter. Was it a decision that was something you had to think long and hard about?
Yeah, I'm sure it was, and you know, it's a big step to take, going from Brighton, where it's all very cozy and warm, and you know, not many, everybody really, anything he did at Brighton he was getting praised for. Suddenly now everything's under a microscope, and every decision he takes here at Chelsea will be scrutinised. He's at a much bigger club. He's making his debut in the dugout tomorrow night in the Champions League. He's never even been to a Champions League match as a fan before. So this is a huge step up for Graham Potter, and a huge life change for him as well. It was something he discussed with his family. He's just been telling the press, and when sitting down with the owners face to face, that persuaded him that this could be the right fit.
Well, my immediate family, my wife and my children. My children are 12 and 7, so I didn't bog them down too much with any conversation. But my wife, bless her, has been with me on this journey for along the way, so that was important for me to have that conversation. And then it's about my staff, and obviously hearing the owners here. We quickly had to make a decision. There was a lot of talks. It was very intense, but like I said, I got a nice feeling for the owners on a human level. Good people, very intelligent people that have an understanding of what they want to achieve. They're thought in the long term. They had a plan. So that was exciting, and then it was. Yeah, we were happy and we were secure, and we were in a good football club. So you have to acknowledge that as well. But the challenge, as I said at the start of this conversation, was too big to turn down. It felt right for me. I'll always be respectful and thankful for Brighton and Hove Albion, but this club is an amazing football club, and it's an amazing challenge for us.
Jamie, it seemed quite a light-humoured press conference, but Chelsea are a club that are notorious for changing managers, aren't they? So has Potter had reassurances from the new owners?
Well, you're right that it's a huge risk that he's taking, and they do have this hire and fire him policy. Invariably in the past, when a Chelsea manager hasn't won a trophy, he's been fired. We've seen Jose Mourinho in his second instalment here as Chelsea manager. Months after they won the title, he got fired. Frank Lampard lasted, 18 months? It's only 16 months ago that Thomas Tuchel took Chelsea to the Champions League final, and they were champions of Europe. And last season, they were 2 penalty shootouts away from winning 2 domestic cups. But here we are. Thomas Tuchel, after that defeat in Zagreb last week, was asked what's wrong at this club, and he said everything. And to me, when I was watching that interview, I thought, oh dear, the writing's on the wall for Thomas Tuchel there. And sure enough, 24 hours later, he was gone, and Graham Potter is now in. And yes, there's new ownership. They maybe don't have the same hire and fire policy, but it is a risk nonetheless for Graham Potter, one that he would have to weigh up. But when he was speaking to the press just a few moments ago, he said, you know, he did weigh up that risk, and like every Chelsea manager, I imagine, who comes here and accepts the job, he maybe thinks of himself as the person who can break that cycle of Chelsea managers having a short shelf life.
Well, if we walk out the road over there's a risk. You know, that's what life is. I mean, no one knows what's going to happen in the future. I left England, I think, when I was 30 years old, and I went to a club that had sacked the manager every year for the last 5 years. 4th tier in Swedish football, left a secure job, I left my wife's business, and you know, for an opportunity. And 17 years later, after taking, I think, careful steps with my career, I haven't just jumped at the first opportunity. I've tried to understand what was involved and whether it was the right time for me to take a next challenge. But I think that's what life is. You know, life's about going outside of your comfort zone. It's about taking responsibility. It's about believing that there's more to us than what sits here now. And like I said, I don't really see it as a risk in a negative way, but I think everything is a bit unknown, and that's the beauty of life.
If you'd been approached under the previous regime, would you have been less inclined to take the job?
I don't like answering ifs and those types of questions, but I think it's not fair on the current owners to compare, and it's not fair on the previous regime to compare. It was what it was, and the history of Chelsea and the previous ownership is fantastic. I'm very, very respectful of that. I've grown up with the success, and it's been amazing. Our job is to create our own history, our own path, and that's what we're going to be focused on doing.
Yeah, of course, last Thursday there was a surreal day for all of us with the sad passing of Her Majesty the Queen, Jamie. But how did Potter describe that day? Because I know you posed that question to him, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was a surreal, terribly sad, sombre day for everybody, and for Graham Potter it must have been a bizarre day, because you just heard him speaking there very eloquently about the fact that he has taken the path less trodden, and he took himself off to Sweden at the age of 30 and cut his teeth there, and he's slowly climbed his way up through the ranks, did a great job at Swansea, great job at Brighton, and here he is now managing one of the biggest clubs in the country, if not the world. So last Thursday should have been a day of celebration for the Potter family, and instead, within hours of accepting a dream job, I suppose you could call it, there was the news that hit us all for six, really. And I asked him, as you said, Vicky, about that mixture of emotions he must have felt last Thursday.
One of those days where we'll, you know, in 20 years, 30, 40 years' time, we'll go, where were you when that happened? And that'll be easy for me to answer, that's for sure. A seismic day on loads of levels. Because obviously I had the personal exciting news of being here and everything that went with that, and you know, without sounding silly, I was the main news, I guess. And then sadly I didn't become the news at all, and you know, the Queen, who's someone that's been in all of our lives, you know, passed away, and it was an incredible story. And then you start to think about your own life and your own memories. You know, my childhood memories of with my mum and dad. Bless them. A lot of those are with, you know, Queen's Jubilee or some royal family event, a wedding. So you start to think about, wow, how constant she's been in all of our lives, and pretty quickly your thoughts are with the family.
And because of the sad passing of Her Majesty the Queen, of course, Graham Potter didn't have his debut West London derby at the weekend at Craven Cottage, just around the road from us here. He won't have his Premier League debut against Liverpool this weekend either. That's been postponed because of policing issues. So his first Premier League game in charge will be away at Crystal Palace on the 1st of October. That's a huge gap between accepting the job and finally getting your first taste of Premier League football. It does give him the chance to get to know his squad a bit better, get his feet under the table here at Stamford Bridge. But it's a baptism of fire tomorrow night, because he's straight into a Champions League match. It's against RB Leipzig here. He's never even been to a Champions League match as a spectator before, and here he is now managing the European champions of 16 months ago in the Champions League tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's quite a remarkable story.